I want you to imagine a 6-year-old child, and this 6-year-old is temperamental, full of themselves, demanding, entitled, thinks the world ought to center around them, and when frustrated, they scream and yell and stomp and threaten to hold their breath until they turn blue, and generally are determined to make your life miserable unless you meet their needs. Now, when the 6-year-old acts this way, we take control of the situation, and fortunately we can in most circumstances, but they still have their temper tantrums. They still act incredibly immature and incredibly selfish. Now, you might already guess that what I'm talking about here is the narcissist. And the narcissist is so incredibly immature and so incredibly self-centered and so incredibly demanding, and they twist your words, and they are crazy makers, and they make your life very, very difficult. Hello, I'm Dr. David Hawkins, and I'm the director of the Marriage Recovery Center, and I have been talking a lot about narcissism. And many of you like what I have to say, and some of you don't like what I have to say. And I get that. I'm trying to figure this out. I've worked with thousands of narcissists, and I'm really trying to figure out what makes them tick. And I'm really trying to help you relate in a healthier way with them and toward them, and how to bring about intervention and whether change is even possible. But I do want you to keep the 6-year-old notion in mind, because I find these men, and some of you have challenged me and said, look, it's not just men. I get it. It's also women. And so fair enough that I'm confronted about genders. So it is both men and women, but I'm going to refer generally to men because that's what I see. That's who come to me or who get to me because their mates have said, I cannot stand to live any longer in this relationship with this self-centered, immature man. Certainly, again, I want to emphasize it could be with a woman as well. But this 6-year-old man, who's really 50 years old, or he is grown up in many ways, and by his character strength, by his charisma, he's able to move through the world and be a success in many ways. And that success goes to his head, and he believes that he can do what he wants to do, be the way he wants to be, challenge who he wants to challenge. And of course, that makes life incredibly difficult. He does not receive criticism well at all. And when you confront him, he flips it back on you, does crazy making, and so on. But to the question, can he change? Is it really possible? Can he grow up? And I also want to answer the question, is he really thinking about what he's doing? Is he really manipulating you and the world? Does he have a master game plan? I tell you what, many of you think that he does, but like the 6-year-old, does a 6-year-old really know what they're doing? At some level, they do. Does the 50-year-old man who is narcissistic, does he know what he's doing? Does he know that he's manipulating and controlling? Does he know that he's distorting the truth, rewriting history, scapegoating? Does he know all that? Not in my experience. Not in my experience. Denial stands for don't even notice I am lying to myself. So I submit to you, and I want feedback. If you think I'm off base here, tell me. But the thousands of men I'm working with only have a vague understanding of what they're doing wrong. It's very, very vague. This is the water they swim in. Crazy making is the water they swim in. A fish is the last one to see the water. A narcissist is the last one to see what they are doing. Now, let me tell you something else I've discovered. The further up the spectrum they are, the less insight they have into what they are doing. So if you are dealing with someone with severe narcissistic traits, I can assure you they are looking through a distorted window. They distort everything to their own gain, certainly, so that they get off the hook, no question. Their forgetting serves them well. Their blame shifting serves them well. All of their denial serves them well to protect them. But do they have a master game plan? I don't think so. Please write to me and tell me if you think that they have sat down in the morning and they have figured out a way to manipulate you to drive you crazy. I just don't think it's happening. Now, down on the lower end of the spectrum, the healthier they are, then the more able we are able to impact them and intervene in their lives, the more willing they are to see that what they're doing is very, very destructive. The higher they are on the spectrum, the less insight they have, the more entrenched they are into their character pathology. So again, can they change? If they're on the lower end of the spectrum, and if they're met with very firm intervention, very firm boundaries, I'm having success using both individual and couples counseling to create change. If they're on the higher end of the spectrum, their denial is so massive, so strong, that they really do have a tough time changing. But again, I want to add one more thing, and that is I want to put some of it onto you as far as being the instrument of change. So yes, you can bring an intervention to bear. Yes, we can create a net around them. These men are typically so immature and so dependent that they need you. They need the relationship. And if you'll threaten that, you'll threaten them, and that will bring the breakdown that leads to a breakthrough. So the challenge of change is this. We've got to hold them accountable. Yes, they don't like it. To the degree that you're able to hold them accountable by virtue of manipulating your relationship with them. And by the way, that's all we have. That's all I have in my relationship to my wife, to the people in my world. I can pull my relationship away from them. That's what I can change. That's what I can impact. And if I do change that, it typically threatens them. And if they value me at all, they will consider entering into depth counseling. And depth counseling is what is needed. And I've already said it takes both individual and couples counseling. You dare not just send them off to a therapist on the corner of 4th and Pine. That will not work. It's got to be much more in depth. They've got to be able to be held accountable for all the different ways that they use crazy making to keep their world just the way it is. So again, the challenge of change is seeing them as very immature, self-centered people who need confrontation. The work is difficult, the work is challenging, and yet if they're on that lower end of the spectrum, lower to mid-level on the spectrum, there is the possibility of change. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm Dr. David Hawkins. You can contact our office at 360-348-5247. Email me at drdavid@marriagerecoverycenter.com. Go to our website, see the work I'm doing. Give me feedback. Let's interact on this. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.